What is up, Divergent friends? Welcome to Cognitive Dissonance, the channel where we try to sort through some of the craziness surrounding us. And according to my least favorite evil overlord, Klaus Schwab, we ain't seen nothing yet. We ain't seen nothing yet. You guys know we have seen a rash of very serious cyber attacks over the past few years. I mean, recently, the Colonial Pipeline and JBS infrastructure attacks put literal halts on some of our most important industries. And then there was SolarWinds, which they still haven't fully curtailed, the extent of which is still unknown. And where hackers gained access to a number of extremely sensitive government agencies and some private companies. I mean, some of these were our nation's defense agencies. But, they are predicting something much bigger and much darker on the horizon. A cyber pandemic. I'm going to let you hear Dr. Evil, Klaus Schwab himself, explain.
That came along. The World Economic Forum recently published the COVID-19 risks outlook, the third greatest concern for companies surveyed is the increase of cyber attacks. We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. We have to ask ourselves in such a situation, how could we let this happen? Despite the fact we had all the information about the possibility and the seriousness of a risk attack. Cybercrime and global cooperation should be at the forefront of the global agenda. The grim reality is that cybercrime today is definitively a growth industry. It has significant financial costs to the global economy, but it has also important indirect costs. It can undermine the public confidence in digital transformation and therefore into the overall trustfulness of a society. There is no doubt that building digital trust and a secure internet for the global economy is one of the major challenges that no nation or company can solve alone. It requires a global response with strong private-public cooperation. In recognizing this need, the World Economic Forum launched in 2018 the Center for Cybersecurity to offer a global convening platform for governance, large corporations and civil society to address the systemic cybersecurity challenges and find joint solutions. It is obvious that governments have to play a leading role in securing cybersecurity, but ultimately, cybersecurity is a challenge for all of us. It is important to use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
I know I've shown you guys this video before, and this dude still creeps me out every time I hear him speak. It's just the globalism, the integration, it's folly, man. It's folly. So a cyber pandemic, and according to our overlords, this would be something completely devastating and catastrophic. Like, if our recent health crisis was like 8-bit Nintendo, then this coming cyber pandemic would be the PS5. Okay? I mean, and we saw the effects of the relatively limited attack on something like the Colonial Pipeline, because believe it or not, that was a fairly limited attack, right? And the near immediate effect that it had, and how those effects resonated for weeks into our system. I mean, imagine something that would self-propagate into the majority of computer systems around the world. And because of the integration, our integration, the level of chaos that this would cause. Okay, this is what they're predicting. And as per usual, right, when the overlords predict something, like with Event 201, we know that we should probably pay attention. I mean, these guys are like freaking doomsday prophets at this point, okay? But fear not. Fear not, guys, because you already know that if they have a problem, oh, they've got a reaction and a solution already as well, right? So the World Economic Forum hosts an event, right, for the past few years, a simulation, if you will, that they call Cyber Polygon, right? It brings together experts from around the world to figure out just exactly what the global response would be to an attack of this nature. Because you heard it, this has got to be a global response. No, there's no company or country that can do this alone. You know, globalism, globalism, globalism. Always, always, always. Never any other options, right? And they're going to be holding it soon this year. But before I get into what they're going to do this year, I want to look at what they did last year. Okay. So I mean, look at this. This shit even looks dark, right? So last year, the Prime Minister of Russia, Mikhail Mishustin, yeah, Mikhail Mishustin, and Klaus Schwab got together to host this international exercise, right? And they say, according to the World Economic Forum, that cyber attacks and data theft are the ninth most likely fallout to the world, right? I mean, the damage caused by these factors continues to increase, and in 2030, they're projecting the losses to be at least 90 trillion. Okay, $90 trillion. I mean, cyber criminals are definitely using the current global instability to their advantage. I mean, the number of cyber attacks rose dramatically during the pandemic, with most of them, I mean, basically just exploiting the turmoil that came because of the coronavirus. Um, I mean, for God's sakes, in the first quarter of 2020, Palo Alto Networks claimed that there was a 569% growth in the COVID-19 themed malicious registrations, malware, phishing. I pull this up all the time. I know I've shown you guys this before, but this is a continuous thing. These cyber attacks, and a lot of them maybe don't go anywhere, but it only takes, according to these guys, it's only going to take the one right attack that will cause almost a systemic cascade failure, right, of our current way of life. I mean, because that's what they're saying, right? I mean, apparently 83% of companies have no recovery plans in place, and when they find themselves in a time of crisis, um, they struggle to maintain business operations and just general efficiency. So of course they're going to push for teamwork. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be some sort of a potentially coordinated effort for a response to this sort of thing, right? Or that they increase, training, cross training, or bring in more specialists that are able to deal with this. But so what these guys are proposing, um, in addition to technical training and education, they're proposing several things, right? Cyber Polygon, um, they have an online conference, and they discuss just emerging technologies that are going to shape the digital future. I mean, the role that cybersecurity is going to play given our current pace of digitalization. Different measures that organizations and the international community as a whole need to take just to protect the digital space in general. And I get all that. So this report summarizes basically the key takeaways from the lectures and interviews and the results of the technical training and the results of the actual simulation itself. So this is the report from Cyber Polygon 2020. And last year what they did was they simulated a data breach on a major company. They developed this attack scenario where um like a real live attack scenario that would jeopardize a company's data and reputation and the potential fallout from that. They divided the participants up into two teams, basically. They had the blue team who, was the defense. They were tasked with defending their infrastructure, and then they had red team who actually coordinated and carried out the attack. And then the simulation in turn was broken into two parts, right? They had scenario one, which was the actual attack and the attempt to repel the attack. And then they had scenario two, which was the response. It was comprised of forensic investigation, um, all their technical specifications, the forensic investigation, threat hunting, where they had specialists go through and manually analyze security events from multiple sources, actively looking for threats rather than waiting for, alarm bells to ring, so to speak. Um, and I mean, although they had representatives from 29 nations there, as you can see, I mean, the majority came from Russia and Kazakhstan, which personally I think is kind of interesting. Apparently, the U.S. sent, five or less teams to go participate in this. Uh, and mind you, these would be private companies and different government entities that put together groups to send over to participate in these sort of events. As a matter of fact, um, I saw an article yesterday about how our National Guard just wrapped up its own simulation. They simulated a utilities attack. What was it? Yeah, they simulated a utilities attack that started from the West Coast and that would spread across the country to the East Coast and take out all of our major utilities. I mean, they ran this op for like 2 weeks. They do it every year. It's called Cyber Yankee, right? Where our National Guard and different teams get together and they basically do the same thing. They break up into, various teams. I think they had four teams, blue team, red team, white team, and something else. But then they do the same kind of run through. But you can see Cyber Polygon brought together participants from all continents, except Antarctica, obviously. 120 organizations from 29 countries, and then the live stream itself, because they also have a live stream, got 5 million people watching from 57 states, which, but as you can see, the majority of the teams came from Russia and Kazakhstan. Um, and these teams, like I said, they came from the public and the private sector, but for the most part, financial institutions were overwhelmingly represented, followed by IT and government agencies. Um, I was kind of surprised. I got to be honest. I was surprised by the lack of representation in industries like law enforcement, the chemical industry. We saw a cyber attack on a chemical plant not too long ago, as a matter of fact. Um, Transportation. I mean, for God's sakes, that I hope that the representation here at Cyber Polygon um, is not similar to real world representation as far as how these experts are distributed throughout these various industries, because that would be kind of a scary thought. But so the exercise had two parallel tracks. Like I said, they have a live stream that they broadcast to a mass audience, and then they've got this technical training for cybersecurity specialists. Like I said, 120 of the largest international organizations joined this training just to practice their response to this targeted attack. Um, you know, they also give some suggestions, and they start calling for digital identity, just so you know where this is going, right? A digital identity can become one of the effective ways of communication, right, between the state and the individual citizens. Of course, they say that. So the goals last year, they wanted to, boost their competency at repelling cyber attacks. They wanted to engage the management structure of global organizations, different corporations as far as cybersecurity goes, and obviously they claim they want to raise public awareness. I don't know if it's raising public awareness or, sometimes it feels a little like fear mongering. And I do agree that this is an issue that probably should be addressed, right? Um, I disagree. I disagree with some of their suggestions. So they determined from Cyber Polygon 2020, uh, primarily three different things. One, that governments would inevitably move towards, like I said, digital identity schemes. I mean, we've seen from the press releases, from even like Event 201, which was also helped in part by the World Economic Forum, that digital identity is a major component of their Great Reset agenda. I mean, when Klaus Schwab talks about the transformative technologies that are going to power, this fourth industrial revolution, a lot of this tech is centered around the idea of a digital identity. Now, we've seen, China's social credit score, I truly believe, is like a beta test for what they want to roll out to the rest of us. Right, and you see the kinds of things that are happening over there because of that. I mean, I did a whole video on it. You guys should go check it out. Well, as a matter of fact, I've addressed it twice. My Dragon and Eagle Let's Talk China video, and then again, I think where I was talking about the I don't trust Skynet, the robot rebellion. I've addressed this at length. But I mean, it can stop people from getting jobs. It can stop people from riding a train. It can stop people from being able to travel at all. They report to your insurance companies. They report to the general public. In China, they have giant billboards. They will publicly shame you if you do something that they disagree with. And like I said, I truly think this is a beta test, something that they want to roll out to the rest of us. I'm not a fan, right? Um, so this is the kind of thing that they say is the one of the basic precepts of the technology needed for this great reset. A digital identity for these guys, it's going to keep a record of everything that you do online, including what you share on social media, the websites you visit, your smartphone's location. It can house all of the credentials that you would normally find in a physical wallet. I mean, your driver's license, insurance card, credit cards. And they want to tie it all in to a personal identification method. I mean, everything in one place, right? You are your digital identity. And please understand, this isn't just addressing like individual people. I mean, things would have digital identities, devices would have entities, corporate entities, and then it would affect everything: healthcare, financial services, food, travel, you know, ties you into the smart cities, any kind of e-government, social platforms, e-commerce, it all be tied together into this monolithic thing that defines who you are online. And according to one of their reports, a World Economic Forum report from 2018, they say, and I quote, digital identity determines what products, services, and information that we can access, or conversely, what is closed off to us, the level of which would be determined by our online behavior. So if you think censorship is some shit now, can you imagine? And this was one of their conclusions, that governments will inevitably move towards digital identity schemes. I mean, we've seen this, Bill Gates ID 2020, the whole 9 yards, right? Something else that they addressed in Cyber Polygon 2020 was that fake news, we know what news that is, right? Real news is approved news, basically. Free speech is approved speech, basically. That's horseshit, man. But the fake news itself is a digital pandemic. And they said the majority of citizens are incapable of thinking critically. Not even joking. There was a conversation, and I don't think they have it in this report. There was a conversation between BBC World News presenter Nick Gowing and a veteran journalist, Vladimir Posner, right? The text of which is available online, but they arrived at the conclusion basically that the average person of voting age was not capable of thinking critically for themselves and was more likely to swallow any information put out there than somebody who went to a university. So make sure you go get your university indoctrination diploma, please. Otherwise you can't possibly think critically enough to, decipher the goings on around you without their help. Make sure you go get your approved thinking diploma. Cyber Polygon 2020, they didn't issue any concrete recommendations with regards to dealing with fake news, not like with the digital identity shit, right? But the World Economic Forum, Event 201, the coronavirus pandemic simulation, they did recommend that governments would need to partner with traditional and social media companies to research and develop nimble approaches to countering misinformation, which is basically anything these asshats don't agree with. They also determined the third thing that they came up with, was that there was going to have to be an increase in public-private partnerships. That was going to have to be strengthened, right? They say a critical situation cannot be tackled by an organization or a lone individual. In a highly interconnected world, a single cyber attack could spread exponentially across the global community. The situation could be prevented by promoting collaboration between the public and private sectors and law enforcement agencies, of course. Because these people, their answers are always more surveillance and more integration. I mean, Klaus himself has said that a cyber attack with COVID-like characteristics would spread faster and farther than any biological virus, right? As a matter of fact, here, you can hear them tell it.
The COVID-19 pandemic has shaken our economies and societies to the core and shown us how vulnerable we are to biological threats. In the digital world, similar risks are being overlooked right now. A cyber attack with COVID-like characteristics would spread faster and further than any biological virus. Its reproductive rate would be around 10 times greater than what we've experienced with the coronavirus. To give you an idea, one of the fastest worms in history, the 2003 Slammer sapphire worm, doubled in size approximately every 8.5 seconds, infecting over 75,000 devices in 10 minutes and almost 11 million devices in 24 hours. Fortunately, at least until now, cyber attacks have not impacted our health the way pandemics have, but the economic damages, and therefore the impact they have had on our daily lives, have been equal and sometimes even greater. You see, the only way to stop the exponential propagation of a COVID-like cyber threat is to fully disconnect the millions of vulnerable devices from one another and from the internet. All of this in a matter of days. A single day without the internet would cost our economies more than 50 billion US dollars, and that's before considering the economic and societal damages should these devices be linked to essential services such as transport or healthcare. As the digital realm increasingly merges with our physical world, the ripple effects of cyber attacks on our safety just keep on expanding at a faster pace than what we're preparing for. COVID-19 was known as an anticipated risk. So is the digital equivalent. Let's be better prepared for that one. The time is now.
I swear their videos just creep me out, man. I mean, you heard him say in the video that the only way to stop the exponential propagation of COVID-like cyber attack is to fully disconnect the millions of vulnerable devices from one another and from the internet. I mean, that's not even feasible at this point. A single day without the internet, they said, would cost more than $50 billion. That's before thinking about, economic and societal damages. That's insane. That's insane. I mean, the fallout, it would literally cause a cascade failure. I mean, look at logistics, right? I mean, I've argued, I don't know how many times, everything that we're seeing now, from the messages that they're pushing in school to the attacks on our food industry to the labor shortage to shipping container shortage to all of this is tied together. It's tied together to put the people in a position where they will be begging for some sort of answer, right? Well, we can fix it. We're life sucks right now, but don't you worry, we can fix it. We're just going to give you these nice digital IDs. We're going to increase monitoring, make sure they want to monitor for us to make sure people aren't in there doing more monitoring, more surveillance, more integration. Always their answer. Always their answer. So this year, the World Economic Forum Cyber Polygon is going to simulate a fictional cyber attack. It's happening on July 9th. Participants from dozens of countries again, responding to a targeted supply chain attack on a corporate ecosystem in real time. Now, I don't think, they had laid plans for this prior to the recent supply chain attacks that we saw on JBS and Colonial Pipeline. So we need it. We need it, guys. We need them to hurry up and figure out what we're supposed to do. Sociable says that the World Economic Forum will stage another cyber attack exercise as it continues to prep for a potential cyber pandemic that founder Klaus Schwab says will be worse than the current global crisis. The SolarWinds hack served as a wake-up call to the supply chain attack vulnerability still present in public and private organizations. It served as a warning that the next breach could be exponentially worse and spreading through any device connected to the internet. Following up on last year's Cyber Polygon cyber attack, an exercise, an event aimed at preventing a digital pandemic, the World Economic Forum has announced that the 2021 edition will be taking place on July 9th. This year's Cyber Polygon, like I said, will simulate a fictional attack, targeted supply chain attack on a corporate ecosystem in real time. In real time. Oh, man. I don't know how many of you guys watch Sam Tripoli or the Tinfoil Hat podcast, but he had the Google whistleblower on there, Zach Voorhees, last week maybe, talking about how Intel, the chip maker, Intel had left some kind of a back door in their chips that would make every device with an Intel chip vulnerable. If you guys haven't checked it out, go watch the video. It was some emergency podcast. Zach Voorhees, guy is extremely knowledgeable. He worked for Google, got a shit show made of his life when he came out prior to the election, talking about the manipulation of the algorithmic manipulation of news results, which we knew. I mean, we see that every day in real time. We know about the censorship. We see it. That's why it's important to support free speech platforms like Rokfin, like Foxhole. So if you haven't gone and made the accounts, do that. But you know, this would be some allegedly some sort of self-propagating attack that would just spread, infinitely through all the devices, and then we would have this systemic, systemic collapse, cascade failure, you know, super fear, guys, super fear. Uh, but the World Economic Forum is on it. Their Center for Cybersecurity has also launched another initiative called the Future Series, Cybercrime 2025, in conjunction with the University of Oxford, where they have actually convened over 150 global experts from private companies, research institutions, public policy departments. They finally published their first systemic risk report. And they say the critical technology transformations on which future prosperity relies: ubiquitous connectivity, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and next generation approaches to identity and access management will not just be incremental challenges for the security community unless action is taken now. Unless action is taken now by 2025. Next generation technology on which the world will increasingly rely has the potential to overwhelm the defenses of the global security community. So their goals, they want to address the skills gap in hopes of training more cybersecurity experts. I mean, to use a less fragmented approach naturally. I mean, they want everything streamlined. They want everybody on the same page. They say the global governance of the cyberspace is weak. So naturally we need much more regulation. More regulation, more monitoring, more surveillance, more integration. It's like on freaking repeat with these people. More access, monitoring, control by these unelected autocrats. Like, I didn't vote for these guys, but they're sure trying to direct they're trying to control the direction of my life and yours. This shit is always their answer. And as more of us are working from home, I mean, and the entirety of the globe continues to digitize, I mean, clearly we need to be able to defend these things. I'm not arguing that, but as they said, aside from a total shutdown, there is no way to completely stop or prevent this ruckus. And as they seem so convinced that this is going to happen, like with our current pandemic, I, for one, I'm going to go ahead and believe them. Not because I think that this is necessarily like an organic thing, but because they have decreed it. You feel me? So you just make sure you have sufficient supplies, I don't know, cash on hand, just adequate preparation in general in the event that at some point, we may lose access. Our overlords tend to push these inevitable scenarios, so that they can eventually implement some solution that they already have preordained, right? Hegelian dialectic, if there's a problem, they've already got a response and a solution, man. We know this. And in this case, it appears to be the push for an absolute digital identity. That seems to be where this is going. Right? That will be the only way they can ensure your security going forward, they're going to tell us. That's what they're going to tell us anyway. And I'm not saying this to panic anybody. As always, I tell you guys these things because if you know where to look, you will know what is coming. You can always see what is coming. So that's what I got for you today. I want to shout out everybody that has supported me on all the platforms. You guys will get some personal love on my Friday live stream with Tyler. Not this week, next week. This week I'm going to be live with Gino Ravan on the Foxhole. Obviously, this was pre-recorded and not in front of a live studio audience. So if you want to support the stream, my Cash App is in the description below. Guys, if you haven't gone over to Rokfin and made the free account, you need to do that. There are a ton of good content creators over there. And if you're feeling froggy and want to subscribe through my channel, you get access to all my premium content and all the premium content on the platform. And the Android app is in the Play Store now too, which is awesome. Another great way to support this channel, especially if you drink coffee. And who doesn't drink coffee? Or if you need some special spice in your life, you know, good meat rubs. Maybe you just want the manliest beard ever. You go to beardvet.com, use promo code SFN at checkout for 10% off. You're supporting this channel and you're supporting veterans. So that's a win-win. And if you haven't followed yet, please do. You already know you can find me on YouTube, DLive, Foxhole, Twitch, and of course, the Rokfin. Like this video, share this video, and until next time, stay loyal.